Welcome to Bill and Amon's Bogus Hangout. We're YouTube only this week. We've passed Google Plus's expiration date, I guess. And have everybody introduce themselves. Doc?
Hello, everybody. Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central. And Mentors on Tap one of these days.
Steve? Introduce yourself.
Steve Grincher from Steam Driven Media, and whatever else I can find to do that doesn't involve sitting in front of a computer.
I'm Bill Slosky. I'm the author at SEO by the Sea and the director of SEO research at GoFish Digital. I need to find something that involves not sitting in front of a computer all day.
Yeah.
I do too much of that.
You can get yourself a wife. They'll keep you busy.
I am.
Yeah, it's generally not a good busy.
I'll think about it then.
Yeah, don't rush into anything.
Mm-hmm. So I've been digging into the patents, and I found a new one that talks about how they associate different entities with different classifications. Like Bryce Harper is a professional baseball player, George Washington is a president of the United States, and they're talking about how they might read the web and pick this stuff up from web pages rather than from knowledge panels. Sort of like an approach to data mining instead of web mining, which I thought was interesting.
And
So
also,
like a person might read a book and pick up information from it. Google might start doing that.
could be kind of challenging, though, to filter out what is correct and what's incorrect.
They calculate association scores based upon the confidence that they have in certain relationships really being true. So they might read Wikipedia pages, and they tend to place a lot of faith in Wikipedia pages. So an example of this might be that they have a page about a person, and they've added categories to the page at the bottom of the page. So George Washington, U.S. President, so on, is a category at the bottom of the page. So they associate George Washington with U.S. presidents, and they have a high confidence score or high association score. And they might use other information they find on other websites about George Washington to modify that confidence score. So they use the whole web as a database, not just particular sites. And they sort of like we get with local search and NAP consistency. The consistency helps corroborate facts about businesses. So
Sounds like the kind of thing that some of our erstwhile brethren would be up for trying to game, doesn't it?
I can see people. I can see that happening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We probably know more than a couple.
Yeah. More than likely.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
It would seem challenging, though. Trying to establish a confidence score on small sites around the web that, Wikipedia is one thing. I mean, they've got a tremendous corpus of data there. They've been able to check it for a long time. They've been able to see how often its editors have not kept it on base, which in reality is pretty darn good. So But now they come to some little mommy blog. You know, that would be a lot more iffy, I would think.
Wikipedia has its moments of confusion and unclarity.
Sure.
There's a guy named Jaron Lanier who was a inventor. He did virtual reality goggles, and he taught at Microsoft. He was a high school dropout who became a musician and inventor. Uh, he did a short video, 5 minutes long or so, about 10 years ago. And somebody wrote a Wikipedia article about him where they called him an experimental filmmaker. He didn't think that was quite appropriate, so he tried to edit it. They got upset that he was editing his entry in Wikipedia so that it would show that he was not an experimental filmmaker. They thought there was a conflict of interest in him editing that to make it correct.
Yeah.
You know, a 5 minute long film 10 years ago does not make a person an experimental filmmaker. When they've
I personally have gotten to the point where I have very little use for editors over at Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Oh, I got there about 12 years ago.
When they have a handful of patents involving virtual reality, they've taught computer science at Microsoft and MIT. Last thing he is an experimental filmmaker.
Yeah, I can certainly see them wanting to be very cautious about letting anybody edit their own page. But you'd think that they'd have some sort of a mechanism in place where you can claim this is inaccurate information, you know?
There should be something.
Yeah, and there isn't. Unless you know an editor and are willing to pay them under the table, you're going to be kind of out of luck.
Yeah. But that never happens.
So there's the potential for that to go very wrong.
Yeah.
If Google's taking Wikipedia information at face value. And Wikipedia is not the only place they grab information from. They'll use Internet Movie Database for directors and actors and producers. They'll use Yahoo Finance for information about businesses.
There's there's an actress. She's a TV host kind of person, and she has managed to convince the internet that she's 30 years older than she actually is, because everywhere that listed her birthday, she went and had modified it herself, to the point where even Wikipedia has her birthday wrong. And now they won't let anybody change it to the correct birth date because they are convinced that this 28-year-old young woman is 58 years old. And what kills me is that they have pictures of her right next to her where it says her age, and it's like, yeah, I got news for you folks. That's not a 58-year-old woman.
Well preserved, eh?
Very well. That's hysterical.
Yeah, there's potential there for real issues, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of surprises me that they would even do that. Makes me think that maybe their technology is a whole lot more advanced and boiled down than we have been led to believe.
Is that Google?
Yeah.
They have lots and lots of computers. They have lots of smart people working there. They've got more than 60,000 employees at this point. I keep on seeing less and less patents coming from them every week.
Well, they've got, geez, Bill, they've patented just about everything but air and water.
Give them a little time.
And they may have a team working on that.
Well, they're doing less, but they're making them more complex. The ones that they do patent. It's like something neural network, and deep learning this and machine learning that.
Yeah.
I think when they tell you, when spokespeople from Google tell you that SEO is simpler than most people assume, which was something that Gary said at an AMA and Reddit last week or so. I'm not quite so sure that his definition of simple is the same as mine.
Yeah, I think he uses the fact that SEOs use SEO terminology like bounce rate instead of click analysis. That's all. He just, wanted to poke Rand. And, everybody gets a charge out of that, but people from Google, I don't think it's really their place.
Agreed.
Some things are simple, and you can see people just making stuff up when they talk about optimizing pages for RankBrain, when RankBrain just affects queries and rewriting queries, and you can't really optimize a page for RankBrain.
But Bill, can you say that shit like that hasn't been around from day one? I remember the old doorway page myth by Web Position, right? That was, everybody was making door pages, door pages, and it turned out that it was something Google didn't like. And yet everybody was doing it because one person said so.
Or shooting for X point Y keyword density, and there's always been something.
Yeah.
I came across a forum where people were having an argument over what the ideal keyword density percentage was for certain terms, and I read through that post and just couldn't believe that people were that stupid.
Well,
You see a thread like that, you just run. Yeah, don't sell folks short there, Bill.
Yeah.
No, it was. I never returned to that forum again.
There's lots of places I found on the internet like that.
Yep.
And some are renowned by SEO, but I just don't go there. It's just a rag, I tend to believe that the SEO learns it all on their own, right? Like we did, Steve, where there wasn't, 15 forums where you could go and ask the questions. You had to figure it out on your own. We're better for it because we know how to figure these things out. They don't have a clue. They don't know. You go to a forum and ask.
You certainly understand it and the how and the why of it, yeah. And just picking it up on Billy Bob's blog and running with it is not a path to success for you or for your clients if, God forbid, you're actually charging people for your service.
Are you saying Billy Bob's blog is it a useful source of information?
Watch me get a cease and desist from Billy Bob now.
On a totally unrelated topic, I saw our old friend Matt Cutts on a podcast the other day. He is officially the new administrator for the USDS, United States Data Services.
Sweet.
Basically in charge of, managing the websites and the internal technology and dragging them into the 1990s as fast as he can.
I believe you there, Steve. I did a project where we used the U.S. Census Bureau for a bunch of the stuff. Well, yeah, they aren't exactly.
Well, it's interesting. I mean,
state of the art.
I mean, obviously, you know, when you're talking government websites, you're talking a whole nother class of website, and they have just basically been trying to pick one major failing point. They just finished doing the Veterans Administration website and bringing that up into a modern setting, and they rebuilt healthcare.gov. They're working on several others right now, you know, to the best of their ability, and they're finally starting to attract and keep smart people and just let them work. So, and of course, then everybody had to joke about all the websites that lost their security certificates during the shutdown because nobody had planned for auto renewal, which is, you know, not a thing the government does. It's like, you know, these SSLs are mostly free these days, right? And he goes, yeah, well, there's certain issues with that when it comes to the government as well. So, you know, but it was neat to see him, and he certainly looks like he's having a whole lot more fun than he did towards the end of his spam days at Google. And I found out that one of the things he mentioned was he had to divest all of his Google stock, 100% of it.
Oh, how come?
Conflict? Well, when he went to work for the government, yeah, to avoid conflicts of interest, he got out of all the tech stocks, or Google at least. I don't know about the others.
I don't understand why that would necessarily be a conflict. I mean, maybe if you put it in a blind trust.
They're probably using.
If you think about all the lobbying activity that Google does with the government.
Yeah. It's probably, I mean, yeah, blind trusts are okay, but personally, you know, he probably was able to cash out for a fair amount of money.
Yeah, well, I would imagine so.
Right near the top, too.
Didn't he? He was one of the original 8, right?
He wants to. What's that?
I think, wasn't he one of the original 8?
I think so.
So
yeah,
I would imagine
when he lost his job, he didn't need food stamps.
Yeah. Good way of putting it. That's a shame he couldn't leave it there and growing, but hey, yeah, I'm sure he's not going to have any trouble making the rent.
No, I think he's going to be okay.
That's probably a pretty good position with the government too.
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine he's probably about a GS 5 or 6.
Basically a colonel.
Oh, then he's like a GS 13.
So you can call him Colonel Cuts.
Oh, is that part of the Army, Steve, or the?
Well, it's when you're a civilian,
civil service,
civil service ranking, and it's basically coincides with the military ranks. So if you're like a GS1, you're a private. If you're a GS13, you're a full bird colonel. So, and all the breakdowns in between.
The prime minister here should be a private.
Well, we could say the same thing about our president.
Oh no, he shouldn't even be.
No, he would be 4F.
Be around back with Gomer peeling spuds.
Not in touch with reality.
Reality's not an issue for the people in the government.
Fake reality.
Oh, like the news.
There you go.
I think Trump just makes his own reality and expects us all to, fall in line.
Well,
he has embraced the filter bubbles.
Historically, that's what the environment he's usually been able to keep around himself. Whatever I want.
A lot of times his reality is based on what he sees on TV or in the movies.
Mm-hmm. Just put it on Nickelodeon, we'll be fine.
Hell, put it on a Big Mac wrapper,
Hey, I like Big Macs. Don't be bashing on my Big Macs.
So,
On a
Bill,
totally personal,
in regard,
note, the AdWords campaigns finally got turned back on. Thank you very
Aha.
much, Google. Nothing like waking up to an email that says, we've shut down your account for linking to malicious websites. And it's like, what? And you get, we did a deep dive and it's like, no, there's nothing here. Called them up. Said, oh, well, we'll look into that and we should get those turned back on soon. Like, thanks. Appreciate that.
I wonder, is that supposedly those shutdowns? Is that something that can be done algorithmically, or does that normally take manual?
Yeah. No, that's 100% algorithm because they'll, it's like, okay, well, what did I link to that doesn't clear it? Well, we can't tell you that. Then how can I fix it?
yeah,
Maybe I could tell the guy who has the malware on his site that I'm linking to, and that solves two problems. And it turns out that there was no malware. It just had a false positive. I'm 100% confident of that. But that doesn't change the fact that the website or the ads all got shut off.
And I've been going through similar fiascos all week with Amazon. That, trying to get, because part of it started out being my fault because I made a typo in the error of the print version of my book. And you can't edit certain aspects of a print version. So I had to take it offline, unpublish it, and then re-upload and republish it with that typo corrected. And because of all this activity, they decided that one of my other ebooks, which is 5.5 fucking years old, should suddenly be blocked.
Because of a typo?
Well, no, there wasn't a typo in that one. It was totally. I'm talking about the book that I just published, Didushka.
Yeah.
That was one that I had the typo in the title of the print version, and then they took one of my 2014 books and blocked it. Thank you very much. It's been open for sale for 5.5 years, but we think there's something wrong with it. Which
we've come to the conclusion you never want somebody to actually look at anything you do online because
there's certainly none of
somebody
my
will
writing.
find a way to shut it off. Yeah,
it's just unbelievable. And trying to get them to answer an email is kind of like trying to get somebody to answer a phone at Google. Make up a number and hope.
that's why when I see corporations that decide Gmail is the answer to their problems, oh, and who you gonna call when it breaks?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it'd be about as useful.
I've had local search problems. I've been able to get in touch with somebody at Google to fix. And they did.
They have gotten better at it. I'll give them that. I mean, our problem today was relatively easy to solve with a phone call, which is, 5 years ago, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, you had to have a fairly big account before you got a phone number and someone to call. But even when you call, ask them a question like, well, how do I know when you're not counting a click? Well, we can't tell you that. Oh, okay. Because I asked them, how come I'm getting more clicks than you're charging me for? Well, because we don't charge you for them all. Some we decide are fraudulent and just don't charge you for it. Well, how do you decide that? And how come you don't tell me?
They actually show you how many fraudulent clicks you have now.
Pardon me?
They actually have a column that you can add to your AdWords reports that tell you how many fraudulent clicks you've had.
Oh, they do that now, eh, Steve?
Yeah.
Probably.
It's actually been kind of useful.
Complained about it.
It's one of those things that if you pay attention to it, you can kind of start to see what ads are triggering the most fraud and tailor your ads so they don't quite get as many clicks that are fraud, because they'll never catch all of them.
Are those clicks from things that don't have Google IDs associated with them?
So what they don't tell you. All it just says is fraudulent clicks.
Yeah, that's it.
No.
It could be a competitor where they picked up the IP is a competitor. Clicking your links, they don't charge you for that. If someone is clicking the same link a whole bunch of times, I'm betting they don't charge after the first one. So if someone clicks your ad, then goes away and comes back and clicks your ad again, I'm betting that they don't charge you for the second click if it's within the same session.
So if a robot comes and clicks on your ad 5 million times, they only charge you for the first one?
Probably.
In theory.
Yeah, in theory, we would hope. But it's surprising how many there are. Like, because I used to count every click that came to the website. I didn't rely on Google Analytics, because back in the day when I was doing it, it was like hours behind. Now it's almost real time, Steve.
Yeah.
Back then, you'd wait a couple hours, and you could lose $300-400 in a couple hours back then on what I was doing.
So bidding for advertisements online was something that they would tell you how much you owed after you had it run for a while?
Well, if let's say you had a $1,000 a day budget, and you normally spend that over the course of a whole day, but if you get some kind of an attack where they're clicking your ad, 500 times in a minute or 3 minutes, you'll burn through your whole daily budget before it even registers in analytics.
The client, there was a windows and doors manufacturer, and it was a federal holiday, Monday, snowstorm day. So they had lots of people contacting them trying to get storm doors, storm windows. They ended up calling us and asking us to turn the advertisements off. They couldn't handle it.
Too many people.
Business.
I think it's
That's
safe
a
to
great
assume.
problem to have.
Safe to assume that they were pleased with the ROI on that, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do burn through your budget quickly.
Yeah. And as long as the ROI is there, we don't care. We've got a relatively new client, and they had never actually figured out what their ROI was because they weren't really sure what their profit was. So we spent a month to figuring that out, and then we were able to fine tune the ads. They're running, depending on how you want to count it, between 400 and 800% ROI. And they're like, can you spend more? Is it possible to spend more?
Sure.
Oh, we're maxed out. We can't add any more. I could double the budget. We wouldn't get any more clicks. So now we're experimenting with alternative sources of traffic, like Pandora and Spotify and stuff like that. That's certainly not going to have the same impact, but
it's worth pursuing and trying. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Bill, I was looking at that question and answer stuff that we talked about last week.
Right.
As you saw in the Dojo Facebook page there, that's for question and answer, you can't supply the answer. It's a total UGC situation that Google's looking for.
The QA page schema.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone put a link to a new schema for FAQ.
Which is pending. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not approved yet.
That's
not approved by Google or not schema approved yet?
Schema is an organization that is independent of any search engine. It was started by Yahoo, Google, Microsoft, and joined later by Yandex. So one of the guys who runs Schema for Google is Dan Brickley, but he's only in charge of Schema for Google. So there are other people, other search engines involved, and when they introduce a new schema in the pending schema area, it hasn't been approved yet. It hasn't been finalized.
Oh, okay.
So with the QA page stuff, that had been finalized, but Google hadn't set everything that they wanted to go with it that determined whether or not rich results were showing in Google search results.
Right.
Until they added that, you weren't sure exactly how to implement it.
Right, and it seems now it's got to be in a UGC setting, basically. Right. So they're expecting you to allow people to write stuff to ask questions about products on your website.
And they give people a chance to rate the answers.
So what if the people give all kinds of bad answers and they're all rated badly? Why shouldn't you be able to give a proper answer?
I think the users are just asking questions, though, aren't they, Bill?
No, you're not allowed to participate at all, the site.
The users of the site are asking questions.
And who's providing the answers? Also, other users only?
Other users of the site are answering and rating answers.
That is fucked up.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen.
Well, who knows better about a site's products than the freaking site? It makes no sense.
You do have Q&A sites that have been around for a while that have been run like that, like Yahoo Q&A. People ask questions, people show up later and answer questions.
But on a product, like if I'm going to get answers for, say, GM car, well, I want an answer from GM, or somebody who's accredited, not some guy on the internet who might not know anything.
Well,
and who answers the questions in Google My Business?
Yes, and it seemed like it's an extension of that.
The Google My Business, anybody can answer those questions.
Right. You can also answer questions on your website.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a big thing, like you're saying, the important thing would be to be able to especially correct bad answers.
Right.
If somebody comes back and somebody's asking a question, is this automobile available in forest green? And they say, absolutely, it's a standard color, and you know damn well it's not. Why would you want to let something like that stay on your site? God.
To me, it just doesn't make sense the way they chose to implement it. I can see the user input, but the fact that they won't allow the site to comment on their own website makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, not at all.
It's like, you know what they're looking for? People to make sites that implement that. That's what they're looking for.
To make sites to implement the Q&A?
Yeah.
Huh. And the incentive to do that would be what? I'm going to totally give up. I'm going to give up any credibility of my product line here to Joe Blow.
Thing is, Doc, have you seen those answers? Those answers are beginning to own the SERPs. Like how many SERPs do you get now where there is not an answer in the SERP?
Yeah.
Well, those are the related answers. Those aren't quite the same.
You talk about the related questions and stuff, yeah.
Related questions. Yeah.
That perpetual drop down.
So related questions are in those boxes at the end, aren't they?
They can be an infinite loop of questions. Yeah. You answer one question, you see 5 more questions.
Yeah.
Or you read one answer and you see 5 more questions.
And a lot of repeats.
Questions.
Yeah.
But where are they getting that data from? Probably from programs like that.
No, I think those questions are coming from query logs, from what people search for.
Right, but where do the answers come from?
The answers come from them performing searches upon the questions they receive and finding pages that might have answers.
I've looked at a lot of those, and they seem to be excerpts, pretty selective excerpts off of the page itself. Usually they're fairly applicable to the question. I've seen a couple that were just really off the wall, but they seem to be pretty pointed at the query. But yeah, they're algorithmically picking an excerpt somewhere off of the page.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't figure out was how they were doing that.
I've even seen where they'll take, to answer the query, they'll take an excerpt of the first 17 words of this paragraph, and then it'll be ... and the last 12 words of another paragraph, which actually put together makes a reasonably sensible sentence that answers the question.
Do you remember Google Sets?
Mm-hmm.
You'd type in 5 or 6 things that might be related somehow, and they would tell you what the larger category was and other things that might be in the same set, like cities in a state or parts of a car.
I don't think that's still around now, is it?
They stopped that.
Yeah.
They stopped that, but the idea itself, and it worked really effectively. I tested it a number of times. Somewhat of a similar idea. They've actually spidered a lot of this stuff. They've collected data about it. They've gotten they've scored answers based upon confidence levels. What types of things might be associated with other types of things, and they aren't just judging a single page upon what's contained on that page. They're looking at other pages that may have similar answers and scoring those too. And so when they give a page a score, they might be basing upon facts they found across a number of pages, which helps improve the quality of the answers they show. It's sort of like they're doing with local search with consistency in name, address, and phone number.
Right. Oh, so if they see several websites all with the same answer, they know that must be the correct answer.
They're guessing that must be the same answer. You know, a lot of websites could be wrong.
That's what I'm saying. Like in SEO, what's how
do you optimize the page for rank brain?
I think that they just compare all the answers to whatever Neil Patel said, and and zing.
They checked with Gary. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, because that would be how they're doing most other things too. Even for judging the relevancy on the page, they're looking at all the words on the page and the top results. Could be the same kind of techniques used.
So kind of what, Terry?
Techniques, or the way that they're coming about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Q&A question thing was user-generated content. The FAQ page schema seems to be something that you can answer the questions yourself on your own site.
Yeah, you can do it on your own. And that would make the FAQ pages basically readable by machine, right?
Right.
And that's the advantage to it.
Yeah, that I can see being a major plus. The
Yeah.
Q&A, oh, no way.
Well, I have FAQs on a few sites, so as soon as I saw that question and answer thing, I thought, oh, here's a way to, use
Well,
some.
there's also just a question schema and just an answer schema.
Oh, really?
So you could actually code
none
them.
of those really tell you why they exist, why they're different, what purpose they serve.
Yeah, why split them up other than, yeah. Is that supported by Google or no?
So the schema, like I said, it's supported by multiple groups, multiple search engines. There's no place on Google in the Google developer pages do have some schema, tell you how to use those.
Right.
They do have support pages, but they don't have a one-to-one corresponding matchup between everything that's on schema and how you might use it for Google. They don't do that.
Right. That's the question I was really asking was, is Google using that question and answer schemas?
We can't be sure.
Right. Because they don't really tell you which ones they're going to use until they decide to use them, right?
Or 2 years after.
Yeah, or 2 years after, right. That's why anything that I find interesting or that is workable on a website, I don't care if Google's, gonna support that one and put it in the results or not. The fact that not anybody can read that and get the data is enough for me, because you have to look to the future. Just like using keyword tag. I've always filled them in, even though everyone says, oh, they don't use them. Well, who knows what you may could use that for in the future. And then you have to go to every page and add them. It's not like I spend the time that I did back in 1998, but I still put something there. Oh, Christ. I'd spend a half hour writing a keywords tag back in the day, though.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing the arguments over whether or not you separate those by commas or spaces.
Yeah. Or whether you need a comma and a space, or having two words the same, too close together. There were all kinds of things. That's why it took a half hour to write them.
Saying you change from time to time?
Oh, yeah. For a while, I didn't bother to fill them in. And then I had a reason to use them, and I realized that I'd been foolish not to put them in automatically on every page. Especially, I always thought that it was giving up too much information too easily to your competitors. So, I used to do that myself. Well, what are they targeting on the page? Well, if you looked at their keyword tag in the old days, it was pretty easy to figure out.
Of course, those are the words they use on the page anyway. So
should be.
Yeah, They should be.
But I actually had on a website for a while a search, internal search on the site that used the keyword tag. So you could assign keywords to a page and it would associate the page to those keywords.
And I see that a lot on Amazon.com
Probably,
pages.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're probably just taking the tags, though, the Amazon tags, and putting them in the keyword tag. Steve would know better. He does a lot of that work.
Nah.
Nah. Oh, okay.
Nah, they don't, or nah, you don't do a lot of that.
I try not to work.
Oh. I try not to, too, but I find it hard to keep a roof over my head if I'm not.
Yeah.
Tend to like to keep warm and dry and, fed.
Another little alternate topic just came across. Apparently, Google paid Apple $9.4 billion last year to be their default search engine on the iPhone.
9.4 billion.
That's more money than Apple makes off of Apple Music. I mean,
Lord Almighty.
wow.
But Apple is going on the run in Apple Maps.
But so that's to be the search on default search on iPhone.
iPhones.
Wow.
So things that Siri reads.
What's their market share?
I don't know.
That'd be 20 or 30% in the U.S. at least.
I saw something a few days ago that the iPhone had something like 32% of the cell market. I don't recall if it was in the U.S. or North America or world. But
so if you figure 32% of all telephones are Apple and 50% of all searches are done on mobile, 9 billion is probably cheap.
Yeah.
For what they're getting in AdWords from it, I bet you it's
Well,
they're
I mean, the thing to me is Apple's been claiming to be the privacy leader in tech, yet they're in bed with Google, who is anything but a privacy leader.
And
So-
Apple doesn't necessarily have clean hands when it comes to privacy.
that's true.
If you look at
especially
Apple
if
Maps
you put-
and how they rank things in Apple Maps, it's based on GPS visits to places. So they're tracking everything, everywhere everybody goes using Apple Maps.
Yeah, their whole philosophy is, since they're not identifying the individual, then
It's
there's no
private.
privacy issue. Yeah. But
How about FaceTime, though? Did you hear about that one?
FaceTime?
FaceTime, they have groups, and someone figured out that you could just go to any group and listen in.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Geez, that's ahead of privacy.
And couldn't get anybody to listen when they tried to report it.
No, they
Well,
probably listened and tried to bury it.
There's a lot more to that story. Unfortunately, as the person who first discovered it was a
Kid.
14 or 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And Apple does not allow random people to submit bug reports. You have to submit it through a developer account. Otherwise, I mean, could you imagine how many bug reports they would get if just anybody could submit a bug report?
Sure.
I mean, how many thousands per hour would be, why can't I find this icon on my phone? Or the map isn't working, or, there's a whole bunch of, just general use questions that account would get hammered with. So to submit a bug report, you have to have a developer account, which is free. And they didn't want to go through the extra step of creating a developer account just to submit a bug report, which I understand as well. So it didn't get any attention until they started, going public with it. So there's, a lot of weird stuff going there.
But either way, that shouldn't have got by someone who's the privacy leader. That anybody could just go into any group. You would think that would be something you would test.
No,
there was kind of a back door to the thing. Not that the kid had any nefarious intent. It's just the way that he accessed the ability to listen. He just tried to call somebody, and they didn't answer. And all of a sudden, he was listening. And so there was a bug in the program. It wasn't something that the kid was able to hack. It was a bug.
But either way, that's a pretty big bug.
But it wasn't just like, hey, there's a group. I think I'll go see if I can listen to it.
I thought that's the way it was.
No, he tried to place a call to somebody who I believe was a member in that group. They did not answer, so all of a sudden he could hear what was being said in the group.
And it only it didn't last for very long either. It's only like 10 seconds and then it shuts off. So while it is technically a bug, it's in the grand scheme of things not that big a deal.
Yeah, but it got a lot of virality out of it.
Well, yeah,
not too many people realize the full story. They've only heard the part that I heard.
Yeah. Well, and I was just looking here at ZDNet this morning. Google warned about 2 iOS zero-day exploits that are out in the latest iOS update. It's like, oh my gosh.
For Android?
So, no, for iPhones. They fixed the whole FaceTime bug, but then introduced some new issues. Which is generally the case with software that gets super complex.
Fix one and it opens up another.
You close one door and open another.
Open a window.
It's awesome. I'm glad I'm not in low-level development anymore.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about going back to it.
Well, there is some reduced stress and headache by eliminating the clients from your life.
Yeah.
Not all clients, but there's certainly some out there that try the patience of Job.
They all are. They all. In the end, they all start bothering you. That's been my.
I've had a few that were jewels to work with for over several years, So, but they're rare. They're not nearly as prolific as the assholes.
It's also the expectations that,
Well, that's on us, though.
Mm-hmm. But I just want more of a challenge. I'm starting to find SEO is like.
You're starting to find what?
More of a challenge.
Get
so
bored?
I'm actually learning. I found with SEO, I'm pretty much doing almost the exact same things I was doing 20 years ago. Hasn't changed much, other than how I figure out what words. Schema.
So yeah, there are changes to how SEO works. It hasn't stayed still completely. There's
Yeah,
new
but
stuff.
essentially it's still the same.
There's been some refinement for sure. For off-page stuff, I think the heart of it is essentially the same basic concept, but there's more things we can do now, and a little bit more fine-tuning available to us than what was around 15 years ago.
Yeah, I never did much off page anyways. So.
You never did much off page?
No, I never thought it was. I don't think begging for links is sustainable. Sorry.
That's what Fiverr's for. You pay other people to beg.
And you get Fiverr value too. To me, that stuff all seems like it's not really sustainable. Because what I've seen is that over time, those things become weaker, not stronger. So if you're getting a link from a blog, after it's a year old, it's not passing much equity to you, unless it's still getting links to it itself.
Saying it diminishes in value over time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard a lot of discussion that talks about how rapid that decay is, though. I mean, are we talking a year or are we talking 10 years?
Yeah, but anything I do on the page, right, Doc? It's probably going to not need to be changed or updated.
Right, but you lose everything when GeoCities goes out of business, or.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you're getting your inbound links from GeoCities, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
There's so much that you have. To me, it's not SEO because I don't really have control over that, right? I cannot really say I can do this this month, right? I can't guarantee that I can give you a link every month from get you a new placement every month. But I can guarantee you that I can add a new page to your website every month, right? So to me, link building isn't really sustainable.
I could agree with that to a degree, but I'm sure that there are those out there that have, gal like Deb, for instance, who would argue that we're both full of crap because.
No, I bet you Deb would agree with me that
it's sustainable if you're willing to put in more and more work every
Yes.
day than you did.
Right.
Once you get the work done, it ain't done. Well, it's like SEO. SEO is not a task; it's a process. And link building has to be a process too. And especially if you're trying to build links to a page that is now 9 months old versus 9 days old. So, freshness does have something to say, not only with the link, but the content. So you're fighting two battles there. Now, is the search engine going to think that content is as valid as this 2-day-old article that's essentially covering the same topic? And is your 9-month-old link as valuable as this guy's link from a similar, equal site that he got yesterday, to a fresher piece of content? So no, it's not sustainable by itself. But I don't think that it's a dead beast yet. You just got to be willing to keep hammering.
I'm not saying that I used to be able to get by without doing it at all. Now I know I have to do it, but I don't like doing it.
No,
to me, it's not really sustainable.
I agree with that. I don't like doing it either.
And it's too hard a work for what you get back, right? And you have no control over it. Once you get an article placed, right? Well, you have no control over the next content that gets added to that site. What if he decides he's going to join some PBN? You don't even know that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me about putting so much into that basket. I know Steve probably doesn't agree, but
You get so little control over everything in the world. Why should
Yep.
the web be different?
yeah, but I have control what I'm putting on my pages.
That's why I like focusing on technical SEO.
Yes,
Got control of that,
yes.
especially if I refuse to give the client an admin account.
You can only use that one for a little while, Doc. I can tell you from experience. Eventually, they ask why they can't get in.
I had one not too long ago ask me why I had downgraded him from admin to author. I said, because the last time you logged in as an admin, you broke the site. And then you expected
I wound up putting logging software on everything. And when stuff breaks, I just look and see who broke it, and then I charge them appropriately.
Yep. Well, and he expected me to fix it within our contract.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'll be glad to fix it. My billing rate's $75 an hour, 4-hour minimum.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to pay that, then you can get the guy that broke it to fix it. Look in the mirror.
Yep, or get that other admin to fix it.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, guys. Call it a day. Thank you all. And it's good having you join us. Take care now. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, God. That's almost as bad as forgetting an anniversary.